we don't come at it skills-based first. We come at it mindset-based first. Learning to swim as an adult is about 80% mental to 20% physical. You need to take care of these mental steps first, and then you apply it to a very small physical step.
Welcome to Mixing Up Midlife, the weekly podcast for women in their 50s and beyond who want to explore this incredible age by being more adventurous and more curious. I'm Terri.
And I'm Melissa. And on this week's podcast, we're excited to have Cori Myka as our guest. Cori is the founder of Calm Within Adult Swim and the creator of the Foundations of Change learning method. Cori's been featured on NPR and USA Today, and today she's with us to talk about the transformative power of learning to swim as an adult. Now, maybe some of you all have set this as a resolution or a goal or a bingo card if you listen to our podcast to support your health this year, and swimming might be a really important way to do that. But many of us have some hurdles to overcome, whether it's not knowing how to swim, having a fear of water. We're so excited, Cori, you're here. So welcome. And why have you made it your mission to teach adults how to swim?
I really appreciate being here. I love who you guys serve, curious adventurers, because people, right? To learn to swim, it is about being curious. The biggest mistake is people think they have to be huge adventurers, and it's overwhelming and so scary. So you can be a tiny adventurer, and actually learning to swim is going to work out better.
Tiny adventures are a really great gateway into all sorts of things. And again, learning to swim, if you have it on your goal setting or it's been something that you're afraid to do, this is a great time to do it. I am really so curious about how to do it online. That is a promise that you make, that you can learn to swim online. I don't know how, but we're going to find out. But how did you come about this?
Swimming is something that's always been part of my life. I think the first adult I ever offered to teach to swim was when I was 5 years old on a houseboat. And my aunt was like, I'm not getting into that lake. I'll teach you, Auntie. Probably wouldn't have done a very good job at that point. It's a long history of it. So I was a kind of typical pool rat that spent all summer at the pools, and I ended up teaching kids swimming lessons. But the person and the people that hooked me the most were the adults. Kids, they're interesting, they're great, they're fun, but it was the adults. You know, I had this very, what I thought was old adult. I don't know, looking back, maybe she was 60, maybe.
I didn't want to hear that.
No, well, I was 16. We know how our children look at us.
Oh my God,
Yes.
when I was 16, I thought 30 was ancient. So,
Exactly.
there you go.
Exactly.
But she was so afraid, and she had all these stories about herself. You know, like her brothers had learned to swim, but she was told she couldn't because she was a girl.
Oh.
And, you know, she grew up in an era of like half-court basketball. So she had lots of beliefs about herself, but yet she looked around and thought, okay, there are other women who can do this. Like, there isn't something inherently wrong with me, right? But, you know, she came to me who was very good at teaching kids to swim, and I was lovely and nice and a sweet 16-year-old, but I had no idea how to help her with the fear part, with this narrative part. We just were like, yeah, move your arms and legs like we tell the kids to move their arms and legs. And it kind of worked, but not really. So that was my first hook.
So did you ever get to the bottom of what she was the most fearful of? And do you find that there's a thread there with your clients, that there is a particular thing that they're generally afraid of? I mean, besides the obvious drowning, which is scary, but the way to get away from drowning is learning to swim. So,
right. I mean, the way to learn to do anything you don't know how to do is to do it. But it is, swimming does have an inherent, let's just say, higher threat level, because it's the only activity really that I think most people go into that you can't breathe while doing it. So it's normal to feel fear if you can't breathe.
True.
But then it's like, what's the story we tell ourselves about that? I'm feeling fearful, and nobody else is, and it looks easy for everybody else. So now we have this layering of shame.
That only comes with adulthood.
Yes. And I do think there is probably quite a lot of shame surrounding it. Embarrassment, I should know this, and then hiding that you're not proficient at swimming. I just find it so dangerous, though. So that's where it scares me. Do you find this thread going through most of the people that you teach? There's shame, there's fear, they don't like the not breathing thing. That's
for sure. I can think of one student that we had, Pat. She lives about 5 minutes away from one of our pools. And she was like, I don't think I'm going to go there. I think I'm going to go to the one an hour away from me because there could be people at the one 5 minutes away that I work with or know.
Right.
Right. You know, if they were coming to that pool, they also wouldn't know how to swim, but that didn't even like cross her mind, right? Like, let me go way over there where I can be in my privacy to go figure this thing out that I haven't been able to figure out before.
So, Cori, what's the way you bring these people through this if they're so afraid of the water?
The big thing is that we don't come at it skills-based first. We come at it mindset based first. I say that learning to swim as an adult is about 80% mental to 20% physical. So you need to take care of these mental steps first, and then you apply it to a very small, like we were talking about in the beginning, a very small physical step. So you're able to stay present through that physical step, and you're able to kind of have a 10,000 foot view. You're not in it buzzing so much that it's all you can do to stay present, right? It's got to be a small enough step.
So it's like sticking your face in the water, because that is actually a weird feeling.
Yeah. And I would even say that's too big of a step.
Really? Okay.
Because sticking your face in the water means putting your mouth in the water. Am I going to swallow it, choke it, get a weird bacteria or disease in my mouth?
That is another fear people might have.
Yeah.
Especially after COVID and everyone's so conscious of germs and that type of thing.
For sure. Yeah. Then you've got your nose, you got your eyes, you got your ears, you got your breathing. Face is a big deal. So, I mean, just that even piece where swimmers are like, well, just put your face in the water. We'll just start with that step. Okay, we've just missed like 6 things that people are actually concerned about.
Wow. Who would have thought? Not me.
I would be perfectly happy swimming all the time without my face in the water.
Yeah, we see a lot of folks like that. We call that the affectionate mom swim.
Yes, I'm very good at that.
Breaststroke.
Head up. Yeah. But, those folks, what we find big picture are ultimately there's a certain amount of danger because it's hard to swim with your head out of the water. And if you're keeping your head out of the water because you don't know what's on the other side, you don't know if you can stay calm or present or how to handle having your face in the water, then there's an element of danger there.
Like a little panic if you go into a deeper part of the pool where you didn't expect it to drop off and all of a sudden you're under. That's a really good point.
Yep.
Yeah. The more I think about it, it's not that I ever really had a fear of it, but I don't think I ever learned or practiced long enough the right breathing. So think my fear is more, I'll be taking that breath as my mouth is going into the water instead of when it's out of the water. Like there's so much going on in your head. Oh, I know I'm supposed to breathe at this time. And what if I forget to breathe at that time? Then I'm going to run out of breath and then I'm going to suck water instead of wind. That's actually bringing up a lot of maybe buried fears in me.
It's wonder that anybody swims at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to that root thing, air and breath, super important. And then you layer it on. I'm sure happens with all kinds of adult learning, is that you see something that's very advanced and think that's how I'm supposed to do it. So even just the way that you described that getting air, you were describing it in a very complex way to get air. Maybe a little inspired by Michael Phelps, right? Like,
right. Yeah, you watch them. They make it look easy.
Yep, easy. And like, that's how you're supposed to do it. But there's other easier ways to get air first that help you stay calm and connected. And then you can build up, like any skill, to more complex ways. Front crawl or freestyle, the same thing, but is very complex. It's not the beginner stroke that it is sold to be.
Okay.
So doggy paddle?
Yeah, what is the beginner's stroke, is it?
Yeah, I mean, the very first thing that we're doing is getting people connected to, I know when I need to breathe and I take care of it. So that means simple as standing up, using the side, using something to pull yourself up with. People discount that because it's like, well, that's cheating and not really swimming. But that is where people first learn about their breath and how to be in charge of their breath. You have to feel totally safe and know, I'm not going to like forget to breathe. Oh, no. I tune in and I listen to those signals.
Okay. So your method of teaching the adults starts with breath. Yes?
That is a big piece of it. Sitting on the side of the pool, realizing I'm still alive.
Okay, so that's the first step. Sitting on the side of the pool, maybe like toe in the water. Once that person gets in the pool, the person who is really, truly terrified, I don't have that myself because I literally have been swimming since I was a baby. How do you then get them to feel secure with that breath, with that moment? How do you get them to that point?
So the key thing here, and this, I'll tie this into the online, the key thing here is for people to learn to tune into themselves. Because you know when you have breath, you know when you're calm or when you're anxious. And oftentimes learning is about looking to the outside expert to tell me what to do next. But we're telling people you want to tune into you. You're the expert of you. We give people permission and space to sit on the side of the pool with their feet dangling in for as long as they need to. Hearing the sounds, having their internal dialogue pressure, smelling that chlorine that maybe is reactive to them. Wait, just wait. There's no rush to get in, right? And they will know when they are ready to take the next piece of, okay, can I trust myself to stay calm standing in the water? Maybe that's the next step. And when the answer is a true, authentic yes, then we'll know, I can go.
So my husband actually gave me permission to talk about him, but he does not feel comfortable swimming. And we have a pool in our backyard. We moved to a new house. We have a pool. And I think he really wants to get comfortable swimming. Now, he'll go underwater and he'll just kind of sit there under the water a little bit. But I think he describes it as he sinks like a stone. So what do you say to these people who are just like, they can't get that feeling of buoyancy that is what actually makes you feel kind of safe in the water, like treading water and all of that? Like, how do you help people with that?
Sure. Well, the big thing, so this goes to the curiosity piece, is we have to be curious about how our own perfect body and the water work together, not how somebody else's body works in the water. So for the example between you and your husband, I will put a general assumption that you float more than he does, simply because of body mechanics difference between people who are male and people who are female.
Fair enough. I've got some balloons.
You've got the balloons. Yep. And generally speaking, women float more than men.
Interesting. Yeah. I never thought about that.
That's a body fat thing then.
It's a body fat thing. You can even, your everybody, here's 50 plus. We're all looking at that osteoporosis thing or bone density. So bone density is another one. Think about a bowl of soup. You put the meat in there, the ham hock, the meat and the bone go to the bottom, and then the fat melts off that ham hock and comes to the top.
Well, I'm trying to put myself in that visual there.
There's
Am I the ham hock or the fat?
Melissa, for our purposes today, you are the fat. You are rising to the top, my friend. And now I can never not picture Melissa swimming in a pool of soup with a ham hock.
I was picturing the croutons that you threw in the end. A little airy. So you're saying lighter boned float more than heavier boned? Is that what you're saying?
Sure. This is why children are more buoyant than adults, right? Because children's bones aren't calcified yet. And so even if you have a skinny child, they're still going to be more buoyant. My kids are 18 and 22. My 22-year-old male doesn't float very well, very muscular, very lean. Let me correct that. It's not that he doesn't float very well. He doesn't have a lot of buoyancy. Mm-hmm. Just like Michael Phelps doesn't float.
That's a good thing to encourage your husband with, or someone who has a fear.
For sure.
Just because you don't have buoyancy doesn't mean you can't swim.
Exactly. And our fastest, best swimmers in the world don't have buoyancy. So that's not the equation for swimming.
Got it. So then the online part of it. Explain how you can teach somebody to learn how to swim online. Can you actually fully teach them to swim online? And how does that work?
Yeah. I'll tell a little story of how I like to think about people learning to swim.
Well, if it's like the ham hock story, I'm all in.
Not quite the ham hock story, but it is like, I kind of like vision these like primitive, humans way back in the time are doing things around the water, getting water to drink, washing, bathing, whatever they're doing. And some of them are swimming, but there probably wasn't anybody necessarily teaching. Somewhere there had to be a first swimmer. And so this is one context to be thinking about it, that everybody is a first swimmer for themselves. And so that's kind of the first piece I like to remind people about, that's context. So with the online learning, these things that we've just talked about, or you're like, I didn't even think about it. I needed to break that down smaller. We're plotting that out for people. We're plotting out the steps. Usually people have very big, broad steps that they need to do. And that's where it gets overwhelming and unsafe, as they're trying to do things that are too much, too big, they're not ready for. And then they're frustrated. Mm-hmm. So with the online program, they're watching a video, they're getting information about the mental stuff, and then they're getting a very tangible, small step that we say, okay, go to a place. Here's some safety parameters about the place. We don't want just people going out to the lake all by themselves or something.
Right.
If your husband's going to do it, like do it on a day where you're sitting near enough to be with him, but maybe not so near that he's feeling judged.
Right. I would hope he wouldn't feel judged, but I was actually, when we were talking about this, I was like, I wonder if I could put a rope in the pool just so, he's got like a safety thing and can practice whatever on his own.
For sure. Yeah. You want to make sure people aren't drifting into water that's deeper than they know how to stand up in very, very easily, because this air thing is, it's a big deal. You do need to be careful with that as a beginner,
right.
But following the tiny little steps and having what I always say is you have to have what I call a container of safety. So that means that you can get air easily anytime you want, and you have multiple ways to do that.
So explain that.
I can stand up to get air. Maybe actually I hold on to the wall and I practice standing up, putting my face in and standing up. Okay, now I could let go of the wall, but the wall is still close enough so I could practice putting my face in and standing up. But I have a backup method of using the wall.
So your online program then, it runs through how many different modules, I guess?
We actually have lots and lots of information in there. There's the first basic, which we call Learn to Swim 1A and 1B. In those two particular courses, it's to help people be able to have the basics of swim, which is to move from here to there with comfort and ease, getting air and rest when you want, and being able to come back to calm when something unexpected happens. So that's the goal of that course.
That's a big one.
Big one.
Yeah. Even me, I am very comfortable. I was snorkeling once with my daughter. We were in John Pennekamp State Park in Florida in the Keys, and I totally freaked out because there was a giant shark. And I'm a water baby. She is like a full-on water baby. She's like, ugh, Mom, it's a nurse shark. And she had just been at like a camp for scuba and all of this stuff. So that was like nothing for her. But I was so freaked out. I started really panicking, breathing really heavy, and I Charlie horsed both my legs. I think that is like the one time that I've really felt super scared and nervous, because I was just like, how do I get back to the boat, right?
Yeah, so you can
getting back to that calm.
Get a full, sense of panic when something goes wrong in the water. And it's not a good place to panic.
Speaking about panicking, Melissa.
Terri.
Okay, this is the first time this has ever happened to us. Cori's audio and video shut off.
Notice somebody missing here?
Cori's missing. However, we were coming towards the end of the interview anyway, and Cori was just about to tell us about her programs.
All the important information. But that's okay because we know it. And if you want to know any information about it, just go to her website. Her program is called Calm with Adult Swim, but adultswimlesson.com is her website. And if you look at that, there's a whole array of resources. There's online courses that you can download, face in the water, front floating, back floating. That's just to do on your own. You can also dive in and join a membership, which is more concentrated online courses, Zoom coaching. If you're in her area, which is in the Seattle area, they actually have pools. So you get a discount for the in-person swim classes. So that's if you want to go in a little bit more. They have retreats. She does retreats. But
yeah, I think they might be going shortly, and that's in Hawaii, where they do in-pool and then ocean, which is a huge thing. And they learn to snorkel as well, or they get to snorkel, which is kind of a really great completion of this scary thing for some people. So that's exciting.
And you get to do it in beautiful places, and it's very concentrated. I think it's small groups, and there's enough instructors there, so you can really have some one-on-one training. In the off time, you're having fun and meeting new people.
Which is
that's
kind
a
of
really
fun.
cool concept, I think.
It is a really cool concept. And I think we had discussed she does Mexico, and I believe she's looking into Greece in the future, which, wow.
Yeah.
So if you don't know how to swim and you got some time and money, this is a great way to go about learning how to do it. If you're interested in teaching Cori's method, there's teacher certification on her website. It's a vast array of knowledge for all of what Cori does. I think it's really cool. You can also find Cori on Facebook at Calm Within Adult Swim, on Instagram, Calm Within Adult Swim. You can find her on LinkedIn and Twitter via her website, which we will link in the show notes.
We're sorry to have missed Cori at the end and heard from her mouth all the exciting things about the retreats, but I think we got most of her information in there.
Yeah, we missed talking about the benefits of cold water swimming. So we might have Cori back in the future to talk about this type of thing as well. She was a great guest. Cori, we really enjoyed you. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, you can find us on Instagram at Mixing Up Midlife. You can find us on TikTok, also Mixing Up Midlife, all the places at Mixing Up Midlife.
We hope you go on our website and download our bingo card,
which is actually live and kind of fun. I've been marking some of those bingo slots off. Yes.
There's some things that you can do pretty much right away, like put on an outfit with a color that you haven't worn before. I think that's a fun kind of little challenge for yourself.
It really is. And I highly recommend printing it, which is not something I normally advise doing. But for me, that physical marking off is so satisfying.
And should we have a prize for the bingo winner?
I mean, you're throwing that at me right now, but okay. What's the prize, Melissa?
It would be fun.
How do we come up with something? How do we prove that?
Honesty. This is going on the Scout promise, right?
Okay, sure. Maybe take a picture of yourself as you're doing all of those.
Yes, video evidence.
Yes.
That would be great.
And then push it together in a reel.
Should we
video?
Explain this for the people who might not have listened to our amazing podcast the week before?
Sure.
So instead of doing a bucket list or a New Year's resolutions. We decided in March, in celebration of our 200th episode, to create a fun bingo card of just kind of challenges, things for people at our age to just try out. And some of them are really small and minor, like we said, and some may be a little more adventuresome. Go on a overnight trip by yourself for a night. We love people doing things. We love to get ourselves to do these things. So join us. Download the bingo card at our website.
That's mixingupmidlife.com.
Exactly. And send us a picture of you doing some of those things. That would be so fun.
It would be so fun.
And there is a prize for the winner to be announced.
There's a prize
I'm
for the
putting
winner.
it out there right now.
I love that. I love these impromptu.
Terry's paying.
Excuse me, no.
It'll be from our sponsor.
You're very punchy this morning.
I am. You got me up early to do this emergency
emergency recording. All right. So that is it for us this week. We will see you next week.
Hopefully you will see us. All right. Have a great week.
Have a great week. Bye.
Bye.
I got to get you in the morning. You are totally punchy.
I just did a big workout.
Oh, maybe that's it. It's the adrenaline.